So we were talking earlier. So you grew up in Pennsylvania, but you grew up on the west side of State College.
Correct.
Right? And so the east side is Eagles fans, west side's Pittsburgh fans, right?
Yep.
Does everybody know that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the fringes of State College, I
Yeah.
mean, you might go the opposite way, but for the most part, if you're on the west side of State College, it's you have a black and gold basement.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, everyone has basements, and
Nice.
everyone has it's a man cave, and it's all like all my friends that I graduated high school with, like they all have a basement, and they all use the same paint and the same
Right.
gold and.
Do most of your friends are they still there? They stayed.
Yeah, for the most part.
All right, let me read something real quick here. So, you went to Phillipsburg Osceola High School, right?
Correct.
Okay, you rushed for 1,008 yards and 9 touchdowns, averaged 17 tackles per game, and received all conference honors as a running back, linebacker, and punter. As a senior, you rushed for nearly 1,000 yards, had more than 100 tackles, 13 sacks, 3 interceptions, set a school record for rushing yards at 2,700 and 374 tackles. You received first-team All-State honors as a linebacker and all Big 8 Conference honors as a running back, linebacker, and punter. You participated in the Big 33 Football Classic. You can tell me what that is later. And you were an All-State selection in baseball as a catcher on the PO baseball squad. I don't know what that means. And as a senior, you won the 3A wrestling title at it says 275.
It's a heavyweight. That's the max.
Okay, heavyweight limit champ. So you were wrestling state champ as well, and finished the 3 years with only one blemish. So you only lost one time as a wrestler.
Well, my senior year. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Dude, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's probably why you ended up in the NFL. So this is John Condo, everybody, with Launch Real Estate on the Chris Karras team.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
So talk to us a little bit about your high school life. Man, it seems like this is like Friday Night Lights all dream guy.
Well, small town Pennsylvania. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a lot to do in those types of towns. I mean, it was a old coal mining town. It's I don't know if you ever saw the movie All the Right Moves. Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It's basically
Tom Cruise.
I mean, it's basically that is my town. Maybe not, not as many Corvettes and
Different era, dude.
Yeah, but, and leather jackets. And
He's
stuff.
almost 60.
But, yeah.
So.
But so it's a small town, not a lot to do. I'm the baby of 4, or a baby of 3 older siblings. My sisters,
Boys or girls?
My oldest is a sister, and then I have 2 older brothers.
Okay.
And everyone in my family would say Jerry Lynn, my sister, is the best athlete in the family.
Oh, wow, really?
So, and people in my hometown would say that too. But so whenever and she's 10 years older. So whenever I was, a young age, like I was always going to her sporting events.
Yeah.
And then my brothers. So sports was always ingrained in me from a young age. My dad coached wrestling and football in the 70s, into the 80s. When we go to these events, like literally, like probably wouldn't even watch. Like we'd go to Friday night football games,
and you go play,
and we'd go on the practice field behind the stadium,
Yeah.
and get a little mini football and just play football.
Yeah.
The whole.
This
whole
is
game.
the cliche high school movie.
Yeah. And it's like, and it was during an era too where like we would jump into a creek too after,
Right.
And it was like.
In the back of the pickup truck.
And you go see your mom after the game, and she's just like, what did you get into? And then it's like, she'd probably spank me or something like that.
Were you the homecoming king in high school too?
I was not. I was
What?
not the homecoming.
Wow.
I was not. No, I was on the court. But
Was it the quarterback? The quarterback went?
no.
Okay, this is ruining the whole cliche
I know.
movie.
That's probably my only blemish, my only loss, my senior year. But so growing up as a kid, it was just sports. That's all I really did. I focused on sports and my academics, and
You got good grades too, right?
yeah, I did really well. I finished top 10 in my class. I excelled in math and science. I actually did really well in biology. I loved it. One quick story about that: I got into advanced bio class my senior year, and there's only 7 kids in the class, and I remember it was me and probably like 6 juniors. Usually it was the juniors that usually would take the class. And I remember after the first test, I aced it. I got like a 97 on it. And there was a junior girl. I can't remember her name, but she got like an 81, and that was like the next highest grade, and she was balling. She was absolutely balling because, one, I ruined the curve.
Right.
And two, she felt bad because she thought I was just like a dumb jock,
Right.
And here I like.
She didn't know who you were?
Well, no, she knew who I was, but
Yeah.
she didn't know. She
didn't
thought
know
I-
you were smart, too.
Yeah. She thought I just liked,
And then the next part of this movie is you guys started dating.
No. No.
Yeah, you were lab partners. Right? No.
That's
So,
funny,
dude,
though.
so your dad was his first love wrestling?
I would say so. He wrestled in high school. He was a state runner-up. I remember his junior year, he was about 500, and at that time they didn't have, like, they had tournaments, but it wasn't like as big tournaments now for districts, regionals, and then the state championship wrestling tournament. And so whenever he made sectionals, it was just like him and like 4 other guys. He won that as a junior. He won it. And at the time, his record was like 500. He was like 6-6 or 7-7. They didn't have that many matches, but he just got on a roll. He won sectionals, and then he won districts, and then he went to regionals and won it. And then the state tournament was basically just 4 guys. He won his first match and got into the state finals.
Oh, finals.
State finals. He ended up losing, but during that run, he got the nickname the People's Champ, or the People's Choice.
People's
I don't
Choice.
want to take any thunder away from The Rock.
The People's Champ. I was going to say, that's The Rock. I know I've heard that. I was like,
I know, but they called him the People's Choice in the news articles. So it was like it was a Cinderella story.
was he from that same town?
Yeah, from that same town. He
okay.
went and wrestled in college at a small school, St. Francis in Pennsylvania. And then, got married, had kids, and coached us. But yeah, sports were a huge part of our lives. It was, I think, my sister played 3 sports. My brothers played 3 sports.
What did your sister play that was like, that made her the best athlete?
She played volleyball, basketball, and softball. And she went on to college, played volleyball and softball in college. Yeah, and she coached a little bit. And then she got married to a military man and had 5 girls herself.
There you go. So you had 2 older brothers. So when you're like excelling like this in high school, were they cheering you on, or they're like, my punk little brother? Like, I don't know, this is,
so
are they jealous?
So my oldest brother, he was in college, graduating college kind of when I was in high school. So he was obviously cheering. But I remember my other brother, he was a senior when I was a sophomore. And I remember playing varsity football, first game of the year. I was a sophomore. I was a fullback, and we ran like a wing T, kind of like what Navy does. So I was getting the ball 25, 30 times a game. And I didn't know how I was going to be, but the coach liked me, and I was a good athlete, so he put me in at fullback. And I remember is the last play before halftime, we had the ball like on our 2-yard line, and we were just like, hey, it was like a wedge play, just run it, we'll run into halftime. And I remember getting the ball, and I like spun around a couple times. It was like a pinball in the crowd, and next thing you know, I just break free and had like a 98-yard touchdown run. First varsity game ever. Longest Russian play in the whole.
As a sophomore, too.
As a sophomore. And I just remembered the next day there was a picture of me on the paper, big article, and my brother was just reading it. And I mean, he was happy for me, but it was just.
He's like, really?
I know. So, unfortunately, he had some injuries his senior year, which sidelined him for some football and wrestling. And but he was able to watch me, and just having him there to support me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I it was a great time in my life because my siblings were all older. And obviously, I had some really good friends on the teams and stuff like that. But just to share moments like that with a family member, I mean,
dude, that's just like, I think that's what every boy dreams of, kind of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about like the Christian McCaffrey and his older brother. Did they play on the same team too?
Maybe high school.
Yeah, in high school.
Yeah.
The same thing. It was superstars a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So you're all world in high school, and then. Were you getting recruited by a lot of different teams?
Yeah, I mean, back then they didn't have like the star system.
Yeah.
And actually how you got recruited is you send in VHS tapes to the schools and stuff like that. So my coach did a really good job at sending tapes to schools. There was no social media where you could put up your tape.
All these
and
websites and stuff too.
To recruit for you. So I was getting recruited. Fortunately, because we're so close to Penn State, State College High School is there, and they had a couple good kids on their team. So the teams that would come in and recruit them would just drive over the mountain and come see me.
Yeah.
One quick story. So my junior year, I was getting recruited by Penn State, and Jay Paterno came over to see me, and remember he pulled me into the athletic director's office and he just started talking to me, and he kind of gave me the pitch, Penn State football, you know, and I'm like, hey, I know, I'm a Penn State fan. My first game is when I was 7 years old. I want to go to Penn State. And he's just, you know, give me the pitch, and he's like, well, how would you like to play in front of, you know, 105,000 people next year? And I was like, next year? I was like, so I was smart with him. I was like, well, so I could still play varsity football and then come with the team and dress on the sidelines. He goes, oh, you're only a junior. I'm like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know. It felt awkward. It was an awkward conversation after that. And that kind of just turned me off, like right then and there.
Because he didn't know you that well. He didn't do enough research on you.
Yeah. I mean, they still recruited me afterwards, but they wanted me to walk on, which a lot of local guys, they want to walk on. They figured it's their dream and they can save a scholarship to go elsewhere.
Right. It makes sense, actually.
So fortunately, you know, I got recruited in the the two other sports, but at the time, University of Maryland, there was a coach who actually was from Penn State. He went to State College. He was coaching at Maryland now. His brother was coaching at State College or Penn State at the time, and he came up and he recruited me. And I remember
who was that?
His name's Danny Rocco.
Okay.
His name was Danny Rocco. He's my recruiting coach. But I remember the one time, I think what sold me is during my wrestling season, he came and watched a wrestling match my senior year, and I was wrestling heavyweight, but I weighed 210, 215 pounds, and I was wrestling the number one ranked kid in the state. And it was a local kid, 15 minutes away from me. It was a big hype match, because he was a really good athlete. I was a really good athlete, never wrestled before. I was like ranked 5th or 6th in the state. The whole gymnasium was packed, standing room only, like people were there just to watch me. They were lining up not me, but also
you guys,
Tim Taylor, and they were lining up outside the school like before they even let out.
Yeah.
And the match didn't start till 7 p.m. So I remember I go into the match, we wrestle. I end up winning. I think like 7-6. I won by 1 point.
Yeah.
And the place just went kind of crazy. Our fans went crazy. Their fans didn't. But I just remember I came off the mat. He wasn't even a coach, but he came down and like congratulated, like jumped on me, like was so pumped.
So he was
for
so
me.
excited too.
He was very energetic, which I loved.
Yeah.
And but I think that kind of sealed the deal.
Yeah.
Because then like literally the next day or within the week, I think they came and they offered me a scholarship, and I
awesome.
I had other scholarships to play baseball and to wrestle, but I think football. I told myself if when I was 18 years old, when I'm 30 years old, I could play in a hardball league with these old men and play baseball.
Right.
Okay, so I won't miss it.
Yeah.
When I'm 30 years old, I could be a wrestling coach and I could be putting on my wrestling shoes and I can roll around on the mat and still wrestle. But when I'm 30 years old, can I ever put on a helmet and hit someone and play football?
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some leagues out there, but there are not that many.
Yeah.
If there are any. So that kind of what made me decide football, and fortunately I did. I was a linebacker and a fullback and went to the University of Maryland. I redshirted my first year, and it exposed me right away when I got to the ACC. Like, I got a lot of growing to do. I was underweight. I didn't really lift. I lifted weights when I was in high school and junior high, but it wasn't the program that you need to build muscle mass. So I was definitely delayed and definitely behind. So
what did you come in to be? A linebacker?
I was a linebacker, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
At 210, that's small.
I was about 210, 215. My freshman year, I got up about 225. Mm-hmm. My goal was probably about 235 in college sometime. Yeah. And but I redshirted. So I redshirted. I started gaining weight. I started lifting weights. And it wasn't until my sophomore the spring semester where we started doing spring ball, the coaches came and they knew that we had 2 long snappers on the team. One just graduated high school, actually, and then the true freshman, who's one of my suite mates, was a long snapper, but his grades were not good at all. And it was at the end of the spring semester when he actually found out that he was going to fail out of school. They came to everyone on the team and said, we need a long snapper. There's no one who can do it. No one raised their hand because no one, if they do it, they'd be doing it already. So they basically just took all the linebackers, fullbacks, tight ends, some offensive linemen, and said, here, everyone take a ball, throw it between your legs, see how you do. And I did it. My brother Kurt did it in college.
Okay.
My brother Bill snapped to me because I was a punter in high school. He snapped to me. So I did it, and it wasn't a perfect spot or anything, but I got it back there for 15 yards. And they're like, Condo, just keep practicing it over the summer. We're going to see if we can find someone, but just keep practicing. You never know. So the whole summer break, I stayed down there and just practice every single day. and I worked on, I went to class, lifted weights, but practiced long snapping. And when summer camp came, 2 days, same thing. They had 2 or 3 guys that they told us to keep practicing, and I was the best guy, and you're a guy, because there was no other snapper. So I was like, okay, this is culture. Like, I'm going to be playing in the ACC, as a redshirt freshman. I loved it. It was awesome. I was like, man, I'm going to be a letter winner. Like, I'm going to be playing in the game, making some tackles. And I loved it. But then until about week 5, I think, we were undefeated. We were like 5-0 or 4-0. Week 5, it was, I don't know what dawned on me, but I realized I just became a specialist.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I was sitting on the sideline and like watching practice, and
you're like, I'm no longer a linebacker.
There's a kicker right here and a punter right here, and I'm like, what the F am I doing with my life? Like, I'm like, this guy's a head case right over here, and this guy, like, he's lame. Like, I'm not a specialist. Like, what am I doing with my life? And I remember having a conversation with my dad that week. I said, listen, I had to transfer. I had to do something, because they're not letting me do anything. They're not letting me do scout team because I can't get hurt. I'm the only guy. And I go, I don't care if it's Division II, Division III. I just want to play football, or I want to go wrestle. I want to go play baseball. I just want to do something. Yeah. Instead of just standing on the sideline, practice, doing 10 snaps pre-practice and then 10 snaps during practice, and that's it. Like, that was not for me. And he, just brought up a really important, lesson.
Your dad?
Yeah, he just said he reminded me about commitment. He's like, listen, like, you signed a 4-year deal, to play, to play at the University of Maryland, and the coaches did too, and they're honoring that commitment. Mm-hmm. He goes, I know if it was me, like, my word means something, and when you sign your name on something, that means you're committed. Yeah. And he goes, but it's your choice. You're 19 years old now. You can make up your own mind, or 20, I think maybe. And I was like, so he kind of put that on me, and I was like, well, you're right. So I stuck it out. And they were telling me, the coach was like, I know you're unhappy, but we're trying to get a guy in here. Once we get a guy, you'll be back at linebacker. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. They finally brought in a snapper that they felt comfortable with if I got hurt. So they're like, okay, John, we found someone, so you're able to go back in to play defense. I'm like, oh, yes. So I go in the room, and it was like a new year, and then guy who walks in the room is Sean Merriman, and he's at my position, so I'm just like.
People that don't know who that is,
he's
arguably like one of the most destructive.
Sean Merriman, played for
guys
Chargers
ever. Very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Made tremendous amount of plays, in college and at the NFL level, and but I don't know. So I backed him up. I got in some game. I got some garbage time, but I loved it. Yeah. And going into my senior year, my coach, he always said, you can make a lot of money doing this. And I just always rolled my eyes. Yeah. But fortunately, we had a lot of good guys on that team. Sean Merriman, Vernon Davis, a couple other guys, where all these pro scouts were coming in to see them. Mm-hmm. And they were getting word from their special teams coaches like, hey, check out the long snapper. He's been there. He's 3 years straight. He's a snapper, 38 games in a row. He is consistently down the field making tackles. He's not your typical long snapper because he's actually making plays. Yeah. He's recovering fumbles. He's making fumbles, and he's having fun out there doing it. And so going into my senior year, finally, like I saw the pro scouts actually lining up to watch me snap, and it was it's a little bit intimidating, but I did see that future where the NFL could be a possibility. So I kept on working hard and finished out my senior year, 50 straight games, and the draft happened. I didn't get drafted. There was an outside chance I would have got drafted as a snapper, but I didn't, and got picked up by the Dallas Cowboys, Bill Parcells and Jerry Jones and company, and that was a trip, man. Like they talk about history right there with Bill Parcells and Jerry Jones and the organization with the Dallas Cowboys. Go in there, I was a little bit intimidated, but made the most of it. I made the team. I beat out 3 other guys, and talk about learning the NFL business right away. It was week 4, played 3 games. I thought I was doing well. Didn't have maybe some low snaps, but thought I was doing well. But I just remember I got my ankles taped, putting on my cleats for a Wednesday practice. Just get a tap on my shoulder. I just look up. Guy goes, hey, you got to come with me. We're cutting you. And it was like
just like that.
Just like that. And we were in California at the time because we were playing the Niners and the Raiders back-to-back weeks. We were practicing in San Jose.
Damn. And they really didn't want you there.
Well, yeah, they just said we got someone new. We're releasing.
Who did they get?
LP Ladisar. He ended up playing there for about the same time I played for the Raiders, for like 12, 13 years. Did really well. But that made me understand the NFL business right away. So I flew back home to my apartment that I just started to rent, packed up my things, broke my lease, went back to the East Coast, moved in with my brother Bill at Maryland, in Southern Maryland, and became a substitute teacher. And became a substitute teacher and still worked out at the University of Maryland.
How many months did you have to do that?
So that was September, October of 2005. And I was getting calls in the meantime. Teams were bringing me in to try out because I was a highly recruited guy, I guess you could say, as a long snapper. Nothing panned out. I got signed by the Patriots and at the beginning of 2006 during the off season. So I went to them and got cut by them at the end of training camp. And then I moved in with my mom and dad in Pennsylvania and said, okay.
What was your mental health like at that point?
I don't want to say it wasn't good, but you start to think a lot, like, what am I going to do? I mean, I made some money, fortunately, with the Cowboys and being in Texas and no state taxes and stuff. So I made some good money, but when I say good, when you're out, I probably had about 20 grand in my bank account, which, out of college, debt free, I had no debt. Yeah. So it's like, it's money. So,
but you had to been going now you're like, okay, I'm back in my hometown. Everybody thought I was going to go play in the NFL or I was going to be the superstar, which I was, right? So coming back, you're like,
it's going back to that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
The high school star moves back home.
Yeah, exactly.
Develops a beer belly and becomes a local at the bar.
Dates the bartender at the local bar. Gets her pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, it wasn't good. I mean, I could say I did some unfortunate things where I got in trouble with drinking, basically, and I don't know. I was scared to death to tell my dad, and but it's a learn. It was a good lesson, and it was funny because something happened with drinking, and I never really talked about this. I don't know. I just brought it out, but I just did something really stupid. I drank and thought it would be good to get in a car, and I wasn't even going far, and fortunately I got pulled over without doing any damage, and I definitely learned my life, definitely learned my lesson, and not to, I look back on
this is where you go now work at the steel mill.
Well, yeah. and it's like literally like the next morning I woke up, I was coaching a PV football team, and the other coach was a lawyer, and that's who I talked to him about it. But it's like I didn't know what I was doing with my life. Yeah. There's no direction. Yeah. Football was, the doors closing fast. And but fortunately, I was working with my dad at the time. I was just painting houses because he retired as a school teacher. He was painting a home, and this was right before Thanksgiving in 2006, or actually right after. It was the Monday after Thanksgiving, and I'm up on a ladder painting a second-story window in about 40-degree weather. I couldn't even feel my hands. Wow. And I was doing a crappy job too because I didn't want to be there. Yeah. And my agent called, and he's like, "Hey, can you get to the Pittsburgh airport in 3 hours? The Raiders are working out long snappers, and I know the people out there, and I got you in. I got you a tryout." I was like, "I'll try." And so I didn't even tell my dad. I told the coworker, and I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to work out in Oakland," and just tell my father, and I didn't even say goodbye to him. I just packed the bag and left. And I was kind of worried that I didn't clean my paintbrush because my dad was always like, "Hey, you always clean up after yourself." Yeah. And I started cleaning up. My coworker's like, "John, get the heck out of here! Go, you got to go." So I left, and fortunately made the flight. Went to Oakland, and didn't make the squad right away, but they kept me out there for practice squad. Okay. So
you get paid for practice squad pretty good, right?
It was probably like $8-9 grand a week, so it was good. It's good money. I mean, considering I just got a DUI and painting a house in a 40-degree day, I'll take it. Yeah. They actually asked me, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna sign another long snapper." Well, he's already on the team as a practice squad guy, but he's an offensive lineman who short snapped in college, and he he wasn't the best long snapper, but he could short snap. And but they're like, can you play linebacker? We need a long snapper, or we need a practice squad guy. Can you play linebacker? I'm like, of course I can. You know, like I there's no way in hell I was getting back on that flight home. Like I was like, yeah, I can play linebacker, even though I haven't played since college.
Were you able to stay in shape the whole time? I mean,
so I did. I stayed in shape just by working out the YMCA. I kind of, I'm a pretty disciplined person, so I was able to like stay on top of things, even though like mentally I probably wasn't, where I should have been at. But that was one thing, growing up, wrestling is instilled like a mental toughness like no other. Like if like I encourage anyone to wrestle, do judo, do anything that will just require you to like
be in a structured environment.
Yeah, just to overcome any environment or any obstacle where you think you want to give up, because wrestling, I mean, hands down, like the toughest sport I was ever a part of. And it just developed a mental toughness that I still carry this day. So having that mental toughness, I was able to keep my schedule where I work out and run, whether it's in the morning or night. I'll still practice and snapping.
Why can't you do it now?
What's I got 3 kids. Got
real discipline. That's a different type of discipline.
Yeah.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, of course.
Things that I wrote down when you were talking about college. Did you have any fun? I mean, aside, like, football was fun for you, but did you do any, like, the typical college stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had a life.
Yeah. Okay. No, so college, I had a great time. And it was probably, we'd go out and have fun, with the football team. We wouldn't go to, like, any frats or anything like that, but there were some bars there that, we had some really good IDs that would allow us to get in to certain places. So it's just the hand-me-downs.
Illegal.
It was the hand-me-downs and stuff like that. But, I'd probably say like my junior year, like that's when, things got really interesting. I was a long snapper, but I was able to like balance my nightlife, my academics, and my athletics so well. But like back then, like I could run on like 3 hours of sleep, maybe 2 hours of sleep. Like I could be up all night and then wake up.
Because all you had to do is snap.
Well, but this is like for morning workouts too, and stuff that we had to do. But I don't know, and go to classes at 8 o'clock in the morning. And and they always checked your classes, so you actually had to go, and if not, you were running stairs and stuff like that. So I definitely had my fair of fun. So.
That's good. So what happened? So when did you actually get in the games and start going, all right, you're not on? Go back to the practice squad deal. When did you get called up?
So
that's always a big moment in the movies.
So I finished 2006 on practice squad, and then going into, they wanted me to sign, and I ended up signing another year with them. And it was that off season, the coach, I think he retired at the time, and it was 2007. The new coach was Lane Kiffin. So Lane Kiffin came in, young 33, 34-year-old coach out of SC, brought in a young crew. And fortunately for him and the special teams coordinator, they were able to convince Al Davis to keep a long snapper on the team that was just a true long snapper. Mm-hmm. Al Davis was probably one of the last owners to keep a long snapper on the team who was actually a position player. In years past, they had an offensive lineman. So he was basically the 6th reserve offensive lineman, but he was the long snapper, short snapper. That way he would save, basically a roster spot. But fortunately, Lane Kiffin and Coach Brian Schneider was able to convince Al Davis that, hey, all the other teams are doing this. We need to reserve, a spot of, one of the 53 guys on the team as a long snapper. And how
long did Lane Kiffin last? He didn't. That was kind of a short stint, right?
Yeah, year and 1 season and 3 games, maybe somewhere around there.
So
it was after we attempted a 75-yard field goal with Sebastian Janikowski, which would have been the record by 12 yards for longest kick, and I remember being on the sideline for that snap. It was his last play of the half, and I don't know if you know the rules in the NFL, but on long field goals, if it doesn't go over,
short, they can run
the returner could catch it short and return it, and you're returning it against an offensive lineman and a punter and a holder, or a kicker, and a long snapper. So, so we were on the sideline. They had Antonio Cromartie. We were playing the Chargers, the Chargers at the time, and the week before he just returned one. Same exact scenario.
Yeah.
And I remember Lane, we were on the sideline, and it was a timeout, and I was like, I knew I was going to go out on the field because it's 4th down, so it was either going to be a punt or a short snap. And he just said, "Hey, let's kick it." And I just stood there. I'm like, "Field goal," and he's like, "Yeah, field goal." And I literally, you could see there's a camera too. You could see the words out of my mouth, like, "What the, like, are you kidding me?" Or like, "Are you effing kidding me?" Like, and he just like kind of looked at me and ran out on the field, and Seabass gave it his all. I mean, he overkicked it. He was short. Fortunately, we were able to tackle him, but and then the next week, Lane fortunately got fired.
Oh, so, right after that.
Yeah.
So for everybody who doesn't know, Sebastian Janikowski is arguably like the most, besides Adam Vinatieri, is probably the most known kicker ever, right? Mm-hmm. And where's he from? Like Poland or something like that?
He's from Poland. He was on the junior national soccer team.
Yeah.
He went to school. He moved over here when he was probably 13, 14 years old to Daytona Beach, Florida. Went to Florida State. He was I believe a 2-time. Oh man, I'm blanking on the award for best kicker, but he won the award for best kicker, college kicker, 2 years in a row. He was a big boy. He's still the only kicker to get drafted in the first round.
Really?
So yeah.
He was like kind of like a troublemaker, right?
Yeah.
Fun. He's the guy.
So going back to my high school, the local paper did a story of me one year in 2000, my senior year, and that was Sebastian's senior year in college. And there's a big spread, and the person at the paper company gifted it to my parents and got it framed and stuff. So there's a big picture of me, with like a Bo Jackson picture with shoulder pads on, with a baseball bat, like a wrestling headgear and stuff like that. And at the bottom of the picture, there's a mug shot of Sebastian.
Is there?
It was a Sugar Bowl mishap or something like that. But it's so funny because, like, who knew years later he would become my best friend,
Yeah, that's so funny.
And it's like, here, we were on the same paper together in 2000.
Did you guys connect right away?
This
is fun. I don't know how many people are going to be super interested in this conversation, but I like it.
Really, really quick, just to pipe in, it's the Lou Graza Award.
Yeah. Yep. Lou Graza
Award.
Yep.
And that picture I showed you, Trade, that needs to come up like pretty early in this. It's not this one, dude. It's the one of you like you're like your hair's all scraggly. You look like you're 290, not 255.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to this. So
I know.
So when you got the opportunity to come off the practice squad and actually come into the game the very first time, though.
Yeah, so
did your parents come out?
That was
was it a big deal or not?
First game, oh man, where was the first game with Oakland? It was at home versus the Cleveland Browns, and my parents did come out. It's a big deal. Is my first game. I played with the Cowboys, and I was a little apprehensive at first because I just didn't like with my parents coming out. I was like, I don't want to have a bad game, and then like you have to deal with it. I was very in my own head, and I didn't have a lot of confidence because I got released, for short snaps before. But played a great game. We ended up getting a field goal blocked that game. Guy came through the A gap, but yeah, I met Sebastian Janikowski, and Shane Leckler was the punter. He's 7-time Pro Bowler, probably going to be a Hall of Famer, second Hall of Fame punter out there, and they accepted me right away. And I think with them being, with me feeling comfortable with them, that allowed me to feel comfortable with myself and gave me confidence. And that's what I needed. As a young kid, not knowing if I belong in the NFL or not, they gave me the confidence. They accepted me. They brought me into,
And at this time, it was cool to hang out with the punter and the kicker, not like it was.
Well, because Shane and Bass were the best players on the team. In 2006, the Raiders were 2-14, so they were the best players on the team.
Right,
so,
they're the two.
And Shane's going to Pro Bowls every year, so he, so yeah, it was actually really good for me to be with those guys. I mean, they made me believe in myself, and it just. Allowed me to launch myself into a great career. I mean, starting from 2006, I played, through the 2017 season with the Raiders, and then still had some left in me. I played, half season with the Falcons, and then one game with the Niners in 2019.
Were you trying to hang it up, and they just brought you back to the Niners, or were you just like, I can still play, I want to play? So I had a great career, 2 Pro Bowls with the Raiders. You were with how many years were you with them? 13 years?
So I had
12 years?
Well, I have 12 seasons, credited seasons, and then a practice squad year. So 13 total with the Raiders. The next year I had a half season with the Falcons. And then after that, because I was a free agent, my when I went to the Falcons, it was just me. And I'm married with 3 kids at this time. And it was just me that traveled to Atlanta. And I just wanted to prove to myself, that I could still play, because I still wanted to be with the Raiders. It was just, they just thought I was older and they just wanted to move on. And so I wanted to prove to myself that I could still play. So I went to the Falcons, played the rest of the season with them. After that game, I remember we kicked the game winner. I looked up the sky. My father just passed away like 2 years prior, or two months prior to that game. I looked up and I said, "That was a hell of a way to end it, Dad. Thank you." And it was a game winner. Ball's in my hand. Kicked the game winner. Got off the field. I thought my career was over. But I kind of said to myself, if a team calls me before training camp, I'll entertain it. That way I could move my family if I had to. Well, training camp came. No one called. So I ended up, at this time I haven't worked out. I haven't snapped the ball since that game winner. So I was like, I'm done. I'm done. Didn't retire, but I'm just done. But then it became week 4 of the 2019 season. The Niners called and said, "Hey, we need a guy. We're getting rid of our guy. We need a guy. And you're local. You can drive down and work out. We need you." I was like, I don't want to do this. Like mentally, like I'm not ready. I lost. I'm 210 pounds. I lost about 20, 25 pounds.
Yeah.
And my agent, because he's my agent, he's like, "I think you should go down and give it a try."
Wants the commission.
Yeah. He's like, "You should go down and just get closure. Just get closure." That was the exact word.
This is the point where
Jerry Maguire.
Jeremy and John lived in the same neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I was living in Hillview in Larkspur at this time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking there was like a Jerry Maguire moment. Agent,
Oh yeah.
So speaking of, I have another question.
Yeah,
I may interrupt. What's your favorite sports movie?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
All right, give me a couple.
I like Major League. I'm old school. I grew up in the 80s, like Major League, the program, all the right moves.
Yeah.
There's a
Vision Quest.
Vision Quest. I was just going to say Vision Quest.
I love that.
And then the I don't know why I'm blanking on the hockey movie with Paul Newman.
Was Rob Lowe in that?
No, that was Young Guns, I think. Or no, not Young Guns.
Young Bloods.
Youngbloods.
I know you're talking about
the hockey one with Rob Lowe.
No, the one you're talking about.
Paul Newman. It was like the 70s.
Yeah.
It was with the Twins.
Yeah, the Twins, the fighters. Yeah.
Yeah, because Slapshot. And that was filmed in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which is probably an hour from where I grew up.
Yeah, 1977.
So anyway, you did that one game?
So I did the one game. I went down to the tryout, and it was me, and I was 38 at the time, and like 2 or 3 like 23, 24-year-olds, and I was so much better than him. Yeah. And like literally the coach came up to me and goes, "What's the lightest you ever snapped the ball, or played a game?" And I said, probably when I was in college, I was probably about 220, 222. And he's like, "Well, listen, we need you to get that weight up to that, before Sunday, because we're going to sign you." And I literally said to myself, like, "Oh, like crap, like I did not expect this."
Yeah.
But I was like, I had a smile on my face. I remember sitting in the room like, I don't know if I should sign this. They already told me the other guys are probably flying home right now. So I signed it. But that was like, after I signed that, like I had no confidence at all in myself, because I hadn't snapped since the game winner the previous season. I haven't worked out. I was about 25 pounds, light. And here I'm on a whole new team with a whole new environment that was undefeated at the time. And I'm like, my biggest fear is letting down my teammates. And I had no confidence at all. I thought I was going to get a punt block, or I thought I was going to have a bad snap. So those thoughts just kept on playing and playing and playing in my head. And literally, you can ask my wife, from Wednesday after I signed on Tuesday, but from Wednesday at practice to Saturday, worst 4 days of my life, I would say, just because mentally like my kids wouldn't even cheer me up, because I was just such in a bad place. And but I just tell myself, well, maybe game day, the adrenaline will kick in.
Did the coaches sense this at all?
Maybe. But I kept it to myself. Yeah. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk about my problems. I didn't want to talk that I didn't have confidence in myself. And I just remember my wife brought the kids down Saturday before the game in the hotel, and she's like, "I thought I'd cheer you up." And I just remember them jumping on me, and I kind of had a fake smile on my face, and it was just, I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. And the game came, and obviously the adrenaline running out on a Sunday, in front of 60, 70,000 people, that got me going. But by the second quarter, I was sitting on the bench just looking up at the clock, like, I just want this game to be over. Wow. I just want this game to be over. And fortunately, I got through the game. without having a bad snap or without getting a punt block. We won the game. But I literally walked in the next day to John Lynch's office, the GM for the Niners, and I just said, listen, like, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I know you went out. You chose me out of 3 or 4 other guys, but I had to retire. Like, there's no way in hell I can put myself through what I just did in the last 3 or 4 days for the next 12, 13 weeks. And,
How old were you at this point?
I was probably 38, somewhere around 37, 38.
Isn't that like, that's a long career, right?
29, yeah.
It's
yeah.
way long.
Yeah.
Like, the only people that last that long are kickers and punters and long snappers
Tom Brady.
and quarterback.
And Tom
But that's
Brady.
even, that's like the 3 of them
Yeah,
maybe that
yeah.
long. But let me ask you this, though. How did you keep that job for so long? I mean, because that's like, here's the thing that people don't understand. I'm talking to you too, probably. If you're a kicker or a punter or a long snapper, like the special teams guys, you mess up one time,
Yeah.
you could get traded the next day or just cut.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
great players get cut, like after they miss a big field goal or something like that. Like, how in the hell did you stay on the team that long?
So, I mean, yeah. So I got cut right away with the Cowboys after
Yeah.
my 3rd game. I had a snap that kind of trapped on the ground. We got the kick up. He missed it. They blamed me. I was gone. I don't know. Like, every day I went into practice, I competed with myself. I mean, my teammates would always tell me, especially during training, Condo, you're so lucky you have no competition. You're already on the team.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I compete every single day.
Right.
Because if I have one off day, if I have one snap over the head, one snap bouncing on the ground, or if I miss a block, I'm cut.
Yeah.
You know? And that's how I viewed my NFL life. Like, if I have one more mistake, I'm gone.
Because that sounds stressful.
Very.
That's why you get paid so much money.
Yeah, I mean, it was stressful, but
Yeah.
I mean, being with a good group of guys, like I said, with Shane and Seabass, like, they made me feel comfortable. So it allowed me to, like, trust myself, and that was the biggest thing. Once you trust yourself, when you're in those high pressure moments, you know, believe me, like, you're thinking about it. I'm holding the ball with my hands and with the last second on the clock, and we need this field goal to win the game or we lose.
Yeah.
The whole sideline, the whole organization is counting on me to get that snap down. Even though it's not portrayed like that on the TV, I'm still thinking about it. And believe me, the D linemen, they're barking at me and trying to get me to screw up. But the thing that I always came back on was, like, just trust myself. Just trust myself. If you're a golfer, it's like, you know, like, sometimes you want to kind of, like, you know, like, take a shot, but you just don't, you know, it's like a half swing or something.
Right, yeah.
You just trust yourself.
Yeah.
You've swung the club so many times. I've snapped the ball hundreds of thousands of times.
Yeah.
Just trust myself. This snap is no different than any other. But I think what got me through it was just, I was always big on positive energy, and a lot of times it was fake, but I wanted to portray myself as having a lot of energy, a lot of positive energy, because it wears off on other people. Like,
Right.
other people.
You're providing a good vibe for the crew.
And I kind of, like, would psych myself out. If I just had fake energy, as I would call it, like, I was actually having a good time. Because and with me having a good time, that put me in a good mood. It just put me in the right place. Like, you'd think, like, listen to music, you know, listen to Metallica or something like that to get you going. No, like, I listen to, like, country music. I listen to Kenny Chesney. I just told my daughter, took her to her first soccer game. I said, I listen to Summertime by Kenny Chesney before every single game. She's like, why would you do that? I go, because it reminded me of a great day in college when I saw Kenny Chesney. We were tailgating for, like, 6 hours before the concert. Like, it just reminded me of that moment.
Yeah.
You know, when I was 22 years old, just having the best time of my life.
So you're like daydreaming about, like, the moment. That's a good point, because a lot of times people do put on, like, AC/DC, Metallica to get themselves all fired up. But you just went back into, like, the memory bank.
Yeah. It just put me in a great mood. And when I was in a good mood, it was just, you know, like, it was just all, like, muscle memory doing the work. So
what point in your career were you starting to think about, like, what am I going to do after I retire? Like, what? Like, was it during your career or after?
I mean, a little bit during my career, because, you know, at the time I first purchased a home in 2009. So right after the recession, I bought a condo for $295,000, and it was a big purchase for me. I purchased a Jeep, you know, a year or two prior. That was $30,000. And now I'm buying a condo, and I just didn't want to rent. I just didn't want to pay someone else's mortgage. I was, you know, my first year with the Raiders, I was splitting a rent with a teammate, and it was fine. It was $1,000 a piece. But then he got released, and I was like, I don't want to pay $2,000 for a 2-bedroom. Like, I feel like I could put a big chunk down, like 20, 25% down, and have a mortgage, you know, And at the time, the mortgage and my taxes and insurance was like $1,700, so that was cheaper.
Were you in Dallas at this time?
No, actually, sorry, when I was in Oakland.
Oh, you're in Oakland.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I was in Oakland, it was in the East Bay, Dublin, California, and so I bought it, and my payments were $1,700, and at that time, I didn't think like I wanted to be in real estate, but I definitely got a rush from the transaction.
Yeah,
it was a big transaction. And then I met my wife. We ended up moving, buying another home, and I ended up renting that to rookies. I kept it fully furnished because it was a bachelor pad. My wife didn't like the foosball table or my white leather couch. So we ended up renting it to some rookies that made it real convenient for them.
You still have it?
No.
Oh, you sold it.
So I sold it. I sold it in 2013, about 4 or 5 years after. Bought it for like $295. I sold it for not $600, but it was like $585. And instead of just cashing out, I did a 1031 exchange into a property in wine country, into a little vineyard home that we bought it free and clear, and I partnered with my father-in-law and we made our own wine. We had some vines on it, but it was an awesome little like small home with a studio, perfect for two couples to go out for an Airbnb, and we rented out for $550, $600 a night.
Wow.
And made awesome returns on it, and that got me addicted too, because that was now I become an investor, and kept that property until just recently I sold it. But in the meantime, buying homes from Danville, California to Larkspur, then to Larkspur, I mean from 2009 to 2019,
you just raked.
Making 4 transactions. Like my resale, I was like, man, this is
doubling
easy.
your money, tripling your money.
I'm getting bigger checks than what I do playing football.
Speaking of that, one more question about football. What was the one check? How much was the check for the one game you played with the Niners?
Oh, for the one game with the Niners?
Yeah.
I think $65,000.
Wow, for one game.
For one game.
And you're like, I can't do this for another 12 weeks.
I know. believe me. And listen, we had a bye week the next week, and there was a little part of me like, okay, we just played a game. I just watched film. Like I could like carry this on until maybe 3 or 4 more days and then retire, and then I'd get paid another week, another $65 grand.
But that'd be sleazy.
But I just, I'm too good of a person. I'm a loyal person. So, and actually John Lynch told me to do that. He's like, just go home. Don't leave today. Just go home, come back, next Saturday.
Yeah.
And let us know then. That way it'll give us time to bring someone else in. I'm like, I know.
Yeah. You're like, no, I just want out.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, see, everybody, it's just because you play professional football doesn't mean that you're happy, right?
Yeah.
Everything that everybody wants to do, it doesn't mean it's going to make you happy.
I mean, I think for me, it was just the time that I was off from the 2018 season to 2019, and then me losing a lot of weight. There's a lot of factors that went into it.
Yeah.
Just mentally, like
you were done.
The sports, it's mental. It's like 98% mental. So if you're not there mentally, I mean, there's nothing there. So for the whole year from January to September, when they called me, like I wasn't even watching football.
Right.
So it was like,
what about your parents? Like, what were they saying to you about this at this point? Was your dad like? Well, your dad was already passed away.
My dad passed away.
What did he die of?
He had a heart attack.
He did. Okay.
Yeah.
And how old was he?
71.
Okay.
71.
So he had a good life.
Did your mom work?
Yeah, she worked. She worked for an eye doctor. She had a bunch of jobs growing up, but for the most part, she was an eye doctor, and then she became a preschool teacher assistant at the local paint and play school.
That's 4 kids. That's a lot to manage with a job.
I mean, listen, my summers were me staying home with my siblings, like me cooking for myself, me doing chores for, like I was like domesticated.
That's what Tom Cruise would have
like
done.
A young age.
In all the right moves, he did the same thing.
I know.
Pinto beans and freaking hot dogs. So what brought you to Arizona then? So you retire, and like, why would you guys decide to come here? Just getting out of California?
So my wife went to ASU. So she was filming. She went from 2004. She graduated, moved back to the Bay Area. We met in 2010, got married in 2012, kids. COVID happened. I remember I was at my in-laws' house. They have a place in La Quinta, California, on a golf course there, and it was probably May of 2020, and COVID happened. It was at the same time Arizona. We were visiting at the same time Arizona opened up 50% capacity, and we decided let's get a 2-week Airbnb stay at Arizona. We used to come here during the off season before kids. And when we were driving, we were talking about real estate. Like, let's get a second property. We already have one in the wine country. Let's get another one. And we started looking at properties, and we just had a conversation like, could we make this our primary place to stay? And we thought about our kids. First thing we did before we really even looked at, we started looking at homes, but before we offered any homes, we started interviewing schools. We go to a Christ Lutheran school on 40th and Indian School. When my wife met Principal Doyle and the administration there, like, she was just blown away, and she's like, this is like,
there's a cult following for that place.
It was like it was meant to be. So
yeah, we have a ton of friends. It seems like
we love it. We love it. Great school. But that was enough to influence my wife to really make the move. And her family's all in California. Yeah. So it was a big move for her. And I remember when we offered, we got the place, I had to go back home because we just bought our forever home in California 6 months prior.
Oh, boy.
Fortunately, we weren't fully unpacked yet. So I went home. She stayed. She's afraid if she went back, she wouldn't want to go back to Arizona. So she stayed. I went back to pack 2 weeks or a couple of days, packed, came back, and kind of the rest is history.
So you sold that place in California then?
Yeah, sold it.
So how did you get hooked up with Chris?
So when I got to Arizona, I got my real estate license. I kind of got my license at first for my own selfish reasons, to be an investor, and to find the properties and stuff. But this is a whole new market. I knew absolutely no one.
Yeah.
I had about 18 former teammates that live in the greater Phoenix area. But I did know Nicole Cundiff, and I played with her husband, Billy, with the Dallas Cowboys. So I reached out to her. She helped us buy the property here. We met, we started talking, and then when at the time when I got my license, I was like, okay, do I do commercial or residential? And when she realized I was serious about residential, she's like, here, let me make an introduction to Chris. So made an introduction to Chris, and I just felt comfortable, from that meeting forward, being with him, and obviously Nicole was on the team, and it was just, I thought it was the best thing for me because this was the first time I'm actually working. I never had a job in my life.
Right.
I never
so
worked
for painting. You painted for a couple of days.
Yeah. You could say that's therapeutic, though. It wasn't fun, but I didn't mind it. But so first job, I knew I was going to have a lot of dumb questions. Stuff that I should know because I just studied for a couple months for the exam and stuff like that. But I just knew there's stuff that was going to come up, and I felt comfortable enough with Nicole being on the team, and the other teammates that I met there that I could shoot a text where they would reply, in a timely manner, and it's kind of how it's been.
And how has it been?
It's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, for me, I need a schedule, but for me, my kids go to school from 8 to 3, and what do I have to do? Yeah. Nothing. I don't want to be, unfortunately, I have some colleagues that wake up in the morning, their only schedule is pick up and drop off, unfortunately, and maybe hit up a round of golf in the middle of the day and go to a bar before pickup or afterwards or happy hour. But I didn't want that to be my life. So I don't know. For me, I am wrestling, my whole background has prepared me to work. Yeah. And I feel like I'm a worker. I didn't get to where I'm at in the NFL by not working. So I think my work ethic has allowed me to go out and meet a lot of people. And I'm finding out real estate, it's all relationships. It's just going out and meeting. I remember when I first got in, I was having coffees 4 or 5 times a week easily, lunches with anyone. I don't care who, just talk real estate, talk anything. Yeah. And I think the more people you know, and then the more people that you could talk to, that when you talk real estate with them, they'll say, "Oh crap! Condo, you're not just a jock."
Right, yeah.
Going back to that biology class, you're actually you know what you're talking about. And you're good at what you do. So that's.
Do you remember Zach Miller? He was one of the best players probably ever to come out of ASU. He was a tight end. Okay, he went to Desert Vista High School. Yeah. So Zach's now a financial advisor, and he's probably late 30s, right?
Yeah, probably he's younger, probably 36, 37.
Yeah, and he had a really long career too, and he was on the Raiders with John. Yeah. And we met on the ride, the pre-ride or the rookie ride. And it was funny because you guys didn't know that each other were going to be at that event. So they both retired from the Raiders. Both had just moved to Phoenix. And they both were at the. I mean, you knew that he was in. He knew you were in town, but they didn't know that you were gonna be on that rookie ride together. That was kind of crazy.
I know.
So like last year's ride?
No, 2020.
Yeah, Ride 59.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a trip, man.
That was a trip. You're not going this year, though.
No, I have my schedule. Just I'm going.
too hard,
My host at the time, Bob Weston, he asked me, and I'm
okay.
actually getting inducted into the Center County Sports Hall of Fame. So back in my hometown.
Oh, I thought you just did that.
What's up?
I thought, didn't you?
No, so no, I'm going.
Oh,
I'm
you're going.
I just went to Vegas for a Raider alumni.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Gotcha. So what's been the hardest part about the transition for you?
I think the hardest part is, the market has been, tough. It's cutthroat. It's do or die basically. But I think not. Even though I know I'm succeeding, I think at first I was expecting it to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
I thought, I could just go do this and do that.
Right. Meet some
sell
people.
real estate and stuff, but it's not it. You actually have to work. Yeah. And that's not hard because that's my whole life is me working hard and being relentless. When I have a goal in mind, like I am so relentless to pursuing that and to doing that goal. So
you're on a team too of a lot of hardworking people, which isn't the norm, I would say, in this industry. There's a lot of people that just don't really have a disciplined schedule. They do it they say they're doing it, but they're not really doing it. I know, the Karis team, so to speak. Is it Karis Group or Karis team?
The Karis Group.
Karis Group.
Did you understand the fortunate situation you were in ending up with Chris?
No.
That's like
I
a new agent getting to work with a legend. Like
I know.
that?
Well, at the time, not really. I knew of Chris. Just getting into Arizona, like
his signs,
seeing his signs, and then Nicole, like she'd introduced herself. I'm Nicole with the Karis Group at lunch, and I was like, man, Chris, like Karis, like must be
he's balling.
Big deal.
And then it's like, having that conversation, we talk a little bit, and then obviously getting onto the team, then you just see like his transactions. It's like, where are these coming from?
I mean, they're coming to him.
I know, and
it's just like,
I know.
Will you please do this for me?
Well, it's just there's weekends where we have like 4 transactions that are like $30-40 million in volume, and it's just like,
I know.
But and then it's like month after month, it's just like he's always producing. But yeah, he's been a great mentor so far for me.
Is he available for you at any moment?
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously a busy man.
Yeah.
I could shoot him a text. He might not get back to me right away, but it's usually within a day, within that night or whatever. So
what do you think is different about him compared to the tens of thousands of people that are licensed here?
I mean, his work ethic is crazy. Yeah. I mean, I could see it right now, and I'd actually be afraid to see it when he was younger, when he first started.
Yeah.
Because, he's a family man now, 2 kids, a lot of stuff going on in his life. When he was younger, he said, all I did was sit at open houses. That's how I built my book. I'd find any open house I could get into, I'd just sit there. And that's how he met a lot of his clients and referrals, and so on. So, but he's always, he thinks outside the box. He's not always just like, he's trying to think, where the future is going to be, and he's on top of it. He's usually on top of things, and he's looking to network, and that's, I think with me, I'm with my past, I'm able to network. I already have a huge sphere of influence around me, throughout the country, really, with former teammates and coaches. But I'm still learning. I'm trying to reach out to many people, throughout the country. I'm starting to get referrals from people, from agents throughout the country, which is really cool. So
how do your teammates look at you? Do they look at you as like, does it surprise them at all that you're doing this, or they're kind of like, wait a second?
I don't know. I mean, you have to ask them. I mean, I know.
You tell someone what you're doing, so you have to know somewhat of like their reaction when you say, "Hey, well, I mean, that's what I'm doing now."
Yeah, I mean, I thought you meant my
your former teammates, your football teammates.
Yeah, I mean, they're. I don't think they're surprised because they always saw a side of me. I'm the guy at the in the hot tub. Everyone else is on their phone, but I'm like reading the paper.
Okay.
The stock market.
That's what I was asking. Yeah, I was wondering about.
So they knew there was like a side of me that like when I was done, like a business side of me that I'd probably have success in. But yeah, I mean, every time I talk to them, I just went to a Raider alumni event. There's 200 plus alumni there, and talking to them, they talk real estate. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big topic.
Totally.
It's they ask me what I'm doing now.
A lot of them would just
so
investors,
it's like, oh, so what
though,
are you
right?
doing, investor? Yeah, and but they're it's a good conversation to have with people because it's a big part of people's lives, and especially with former players. They're investors. So, I mean, going back to Sebastian Janikowski, I know he owns a lot of Airbnbs back in Florida, and he's having tremendous success with them.
Yeah.
So he'll call me and ask me questions and stuff. So, but it's, I still really haven't tapped into that market.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get my license and start
Right.
reaching out to NFL players and be like, hey, I'm a former player, trust me to help
Right.
you acquire a $5 million property. No, I wanted to be able to understand the game, understand real estate, understand the market. And when I talk to them, I'm not talking to them as a former teammate.
Yeah.
I'm talking to them as a real estate professional where they wouldn't know any different than talking to me or like a Chris Karras or anyone else that's been, a veteran in real estate.
So did you study business or finance? Or
No, I was in biology.
Okay.
I was a science major, biology major. I wanted to be a biology teacher. I wanted to coach and be a biology teacher. And I remember my last semester was when the draft happened, and I was supposed to be a student teacher. So that was my last thing I had to fulfill to graduate with an education degree. Unfortunately, it was a decision I had to make. Okay, do I work out to be in the NFL, or do I pursue being a teacher? Fortunately, I made an agreement or a deal with my advisors, and they said, okay, listen, we'll give you a degree because you're 4 credits shy of this one degree. I'm like, okay, what degree is it? And they're like, zoology. So I was like, so technically I have a zoology degree, so I it's a good pickup line, coming out like I'm a zoologist. But I don't know. I wouldn't know what to do with that degree right now anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be a big step going back to nowadays high school teaching might seem like a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So are you focusing on PV too or Arcadia proper? Or are you kind of like, I'll go anywhere, or just like, I'm not?
So I think my first year I was like, I just need transactions.
Yeah.
I just need clients. I just need to write contracts. I just need anything. So I was going anywhere. And now like with certain clients, I would go anywhere, but I live in Arcadia proper. I want to focus in that area, 85018, 85251, PV, obviously, even Scottsdale, 85260, 85258, 54. Kind of Scottsdale, if it says Scottsdale, Phoenix, 85018, 85014, or 16 maybe.
12 is good too.
Oh, sorry, a lot of zips here, a lot of numbers. But
That's
basically,
North Central.
Basically, Scottsdale, Arcadia proper,
Yeah.
Phoenix area, PVs, kind of where I am focusing on right now.
Have you had any conversations with any players that are just about to retire or thinking about retire? Have you thought about that whole mentor deal? Because I know that it's a difficult situation for a lot of people that are leaving professional sports and then going into the real world of civilian life, and now they're going to go. Some of them don't have to go get a job, obviously, but some do.
Yeah.
That whole transition, I think, for a lot of people, it's tough, right?
Yeah. No direct conversations. Yeah, I mean, I've spoke with some athletes, and I told I've mentioned what I've done and stuff like that, or what I'm doing, but I've had this conversation in the past couple of months with other athletes or with retired professionals that the current players, they need to have people to talk to right now as they're playing.
Yeah.
Because everyone, if you talk to any retired athlete, who's working, their one regret is not, start working or figuring out what they want to do while they're playing and start networking and start building, a small book of business or whatever while you're playing. It's crazy because when you actually are a player on an NFL football team, like your foot is in the door, any company, anything, throughout the country.
But nobody takes advantage of it.
But some people do.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done it. I wish I would have had, and I met a lot of people. I wish, not that I regret it, but I wish I would have been a little bit more social with businesses and people like investors and like our sponsors that come in to see us play, that fly on our flights. I wish I would have been more social with them when they're on our flight. I wish when I passed by them, I wish I didn't just give them a head nod. I wish I would have sat down and just started
their
chatting
brain, start talking to them.
Yeah, and develop that and get their business card,
Yeah.
Now you have LinkedIn and stuff like that. Like I encourage a lot of people, if you're playing, create a LinkedIn and just start following people.
Yeah.
So it's.
I mean, this is a thing that, like, I'm sure the Players Association has something like this set up, don't they?
Yeah, they do. There are things that set up, but a lot of times when those meetings happen, they have these meetings after a practice, after a long day. It's the last thing they want to do is sit in an hour-long meeting and listen to, a retired football player or someone talk to them about what they should be doing now.
Yeah.
Most of those guys are 25 years old making $1 million. And
right. More than $1 million.
They can't,
Yeah. It's funny because, like, you're saying this as from a former athlete, but it doesn't just happen with professional athletes. It happens with, like, normal people too, with normal jobs that are just going, man, because I do this all the time too. God, if I would have done this at 30, I'd be set, right? There's so many things. But then you go back and you're like, dude,
you live and learn.
You live and learn, and all those things you're supposed to do, could have pivoted your life in a different direction anyways. It's whatever. You have to go through your pitfalls and stuff. So it is what it is. But, professional athletes aren't the only one that think that. You just guys make more money maybe at a younger age. So, is your mom still around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She lives in Pennsylvania, and so when we bought here, one of the requirements is we get a detached casita, and we have one, and she comes out January, February for like probably 6-8 weeks at a time, and helps us with the kids. And after dinner, for the most part, she'll maybe clean the dishes or just leave and go watch her Netflix series, and then she's good for the night. But yeah, she loves coming out here, especially during the wintertime. I mean, being in Pennsylvania, it's not fun.
And then she's like, get me the hell out of here during the summertime.
Yeah.
So what about your wife's parents?
Yeah, they're California. They actually just bought a piece of land in Arizona. They're in the permitting process. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, everything will get approved to build a home.
And they're right by your house.
Yep, near us here in Arcadia proper. When they visit us, they praised us, telling us we did the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
And they tell us every time they see us, they're like, "You don't know how lucky you guys are. Like literally how lucky you guys, like moving out of California at the time you did, selling and buying here."
Because you guys probably bought $1 million less than it's worth now.
Oh yeah, easily,
right?
Easily.
Yeah.
I mean, we bought when it was in Arcadia proper when we bought it was like a 5-year-old build. We bought it at $520 a foot, 5,000 square foot home.
Right, it's like 1,000 square foot at least right now, right?
Maybe not that, but close.
Yeah,
close to it. So yeah, we bought it at a pretty good time.
Yeah, well, cool. You have any more questions, Trish?
I did.
She's getting out the notepad.
Okay, so this is just for fun. If you were a superhero, what would be your power?
I don't know. Maybe to stop time.
That's good. We never had that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I always
really
thought
good.
about stopping time where I don't know why, like just to stop time and take a breather and maybe I think because I played football, like when I'm running out on the field and if I could stop time. Like
just embrace.
I could go and put myself in the perfect position
Yeah.
to like punch the ball out and get a fumble. Like that's literally how I don't know. My mind.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's as bad as like someone saying that they want to just be invisible so they can just go into people's houses and stuff.
No, that's creepy.
Take advantage of the situation. Yeah, that is creepier.
Yeah.
Still sounds fun.
All right, one more. When are you most inspired?
When?
Yeah.
Like the time of day?
Time of day or the type of environment?
The situations.
Yeah. Very open.
Man, I think for me, there's multiple parts of the day when I'm inspired. I think, seeing my kids, in a good mood and happy and excelling in whatever they're doing puts me in a really good mood and inspires me to be a better father and inspires me to be a better husband and everything. But also,
you're a good dude.
But also but I think also in the morning. So
Right,
I'm a creature. I'm a creature of habit. So it's like when I'm in the morning and if I'm all about schedule. I was talking to Ryan earlier. Like if I have to write a schedule down every night, and then if I don't have that schedule, and if I wake up without a schedule, I'm totally lost. So if I have a schedule and if I'm on it, by the time the kids get to school and I'm ready to go. So.
If not, you're just like running around like a squirrel looking for a nut every day. You're just like, what am I supposed to do today?
Like I have ADD where I'll be in my house and I'm like, okay, what do? I'll go back to like get my shoes on, but when I go back, I'll see like my dog like is chewing a toy that he's ripping up the stuffing out. So I go and pick up the stuffing, and then I'll pick up stuff and take it to the garbage can, and the garbage can is overflowing. So I'll pick the garbage and take the garbage out. And then
this is exactly what this happened.
And then when I'm then when I'm taking the garbage out, I'll stop and I'll see a couple of weeds, and I'll stop, bend over, and pick the weeds. And then when I'm picking the weeds, the neighbor will say hello, and then he'll ask me about real estate, and then I'll say, oh yeah, my son's looking for X amount or a home, and then I'll go in and quickly look at that type of home, and then when I'm on looking at the home, I don't know, get thirsty. I'll go to the refrigerator and get a glass of water. I'm like, wait, what is I supposed to get my shoes on? So it's like
3 hours later.
But yeah, that's I don't know. If I don't have a schedule, I'm lost.
I have one last question, real estate wise. Do you guys put everything in Chris's name? Does he take all the transactions, or does everything go through the team in that structure, or do you handle your own deals?
Yeah, so I handle my own deals.
So I didn't know like how that works.
Yep. So we have a transaction team, within Launch, Launch and Compass. So we have a transaction team that will help with paperwork and stuff like that. But I know when I first started, I didn't want to use anyone, because if I was using someone, then I wasn't learning. Yeah. And I want to know the whole process. I don't want to like just make the deals happen and then push the paperwork and everything else off. Because if I'm doing that, then believe me, then I'm gonna miss like a date or when when the inspection period is over and stuff like that. So I wanted to be on top of things. I did everything. Probably got yelled at a couple of times by some people because I did something wrong. Yeah. But it's all learning experiences. I made sure that I was doing everything that I had to do, and wasn't putting that on someone else.
Could you imagine what your life would be like if you went and tried to do this on your own and didn't go on a team that was high producing team? Because there's a lot of people that want to do their own thing. Yeah, they don't want to give up commissions. They don't like the splits. So they go to like those smaller brokerages.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me with having a team, it's having people around me that makes me feel comfortable. Yeah. And with the people who don't have a team, it sucks too, in my opinion, because you need to talk. You need to communicate people. Yeah. Some days you don't have a good day. And when you have someone that, has had similar days that you could talk to, like that, I mean, talking from my experiences in the NFL and what my mental state was with my last season with the Niners, like I learned that communication is vital to anything that you do. And if you're not communicating with anyone, then, it might not, be a good scenario.
Do you think you bring a different value to the team too because of your experience? I mean, do you feel like you're this is a bad question to probably ask you, I should probably ask them, but like an asset, even though you're newer to the game, you come in with like a whole nother level of experience doing something from like a high level?
Yeah, I mean, I think with our team, I think each of us brings something special to the table. Yeah. I mean, with me being able to snap a ball, I mean,
but there's more to it than that, right? It's like being able to like just function like highly within like a massive group of 52 dudes, right? Yeah. And for year over year, and have relationships and work with the coaches, the GMs. You got a family. Oh yeah, you had to be able to.
The skills that I learned playing football and all that. I mean, definitely I'm bringing to the table. But we all bring something special. I would say within the Caris group to the table, and that makes us, a special group. Yeah. A special group.
And end clip. That's a good. That was a commercial right there. Yeah. Exclusive. There you go. Good job, Trey. Well, thanks, dude, for coming on, man. I appreciate it, man. I was excited for this one because obviously guys are nerdy for professional athletes, even though we know each other. I've heard most of these stories already, by the way. But it was, it was really good, dude. Appreciate it, man. And, good luck. Obviously, I think things are obviously working out well for you. And we are Bison Ventures that does own a mortgage company. Yeah. So we should start working together as much as possible. Thank you to Bison Ventures for allowing us to have this awesome space here. Thanks, Trish. Thanks, Trey. And thank you to everybody who's been listening. Please go on to all our social media platforms and like and subscribe. I'm sorry, not like and subscribe. Like, comment, share with your friends. When we get this to you, she's gonna give you all the assets, and we're gonna be breaking out some clips for you. Obviously, when you get those, please share them with everybody. Have your marketing person use them as much as possible. because the people that have been using them are getting a lot of traction with them, and we've gotten pretty good at the clips. And then obviously we are on YouTube, so please go and like and subscribe, ring that bell so you get notified of the newest episode. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Appreciate it.